Have you ever wondered why it's so hard to stop procrastinating, even when you really want to? Procrastination is a concept that's all too familiar to many of us. In fact, it's estimated that about 20% of adults are chronic procrastinators. That's 1 in every 5 people. But procrastination isn't just a quirky habit, it can have serious consequences on our productivity, mental well-being, and overall quality of life. Imagine being stuck in a cycle of guilt, anxiety, and stress, simply because you're unable to get things done on time. Procrastination can lead to missed deadlines, lost opportunities, and strained relationships. It's a vicious cycle that can be incredibly hard to break. The interesting thing is that procrastination often isn't about being lazy or unmotivated. Rather, it's a complex issue that's deeply rooted in our psychology and emotions. We might procrastinate because we're afraid of failure, or because we're overwhelmed by the task at hand. Whatever the reason, one thing's for sure, procrastination is a major obstacle that stands between us and our goals. I've been there too, guys. I know what it's like to feel like you're stuck in quicksand, with no idea how to escape. But today, I want to share my story with you, a story of struggle, of frustration, and ultimately, of triumph. For as long as I can remember, I've struggled with procrastination. I put off important tasks until the last minute, only to end up feeling stressed and anxious when the deadline loomed closer. I promised myself that I'd start working on a project early, but somehow, I'd always find a way to distract myself. I remember this one time when I had a major project due in a week. I had all the resources I needed, I had a clear plan of action, but I just couldn't seem to get started. I spent hours watching TV, browsing social media, and doing anything but working on the project. It was like I was intentionally sabotaging myself. It got to the point where I felt like I was losing control over my life. I felt like I was a slave to my own procrastination, and I didn't know how to escape. But then something changed. I realized that I wasn't alone in this struggle. I started talking to friends, family members, and even strangers about their experiences with procrastination. And you know what? I realized that everyone struggles with it at some point or another. It wasn't just me, it was a universal problem that required a universal solution. One of the most common triggers of procrastination is fear. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of the unknown. It's a paralyzing emotion that can keep us stuck in a rut. I've spoken to people who procrastinate because they're afraid of making mistakes, or because they're intimidated by the task at hand. Another common trigger is perfectionism. I've met people who procrastinate because they're perfectionists, and they're afraid that their work won't be good enough. But the irony is that perfectionism is often an unattainable goal, and it's precisely this attitude that holds us back from taking action. So, how did I finally overcome my procrastination? For me, it was all about understanding the underlying psychology behind my behavior. I realized that I was procrastinating because I was afraid of failure, and because I was overwhelmed by the task at hand. The breakthrough moment came when I started breaking down my tasks into smaller, manageable chunks. It sounds simple, but it was incredibly powerful. By focusing on one task at a time, I was able to build momentum and confidence. Another strategy that worked for me was to create a schedule and stick to it. I know it sounds obvious, but it's amazing how much of a difference it can make. By allocating specific times for work and breaks, I was able to stay on track and avoid distractions. I also started using the Pomodoro technique, which involves working in focused 25-minute increments, followed by a 5-minute break. It's an incredibly effective way to stay focused and avoid burnout. Implementing these strategies wasn't easy, of course. There were times when I felt like giving up, when I felt like I was back to square one. But the key was to be kind to myself, to acknowledge my setbacks, and to keep moving forward. Looking back, I realized that overcoming procrastination wasn't about changing who I am, it was about developing new skills and strategies to help me navigate my weaknesses. It was about being patient, compassionate, and understanding with myself. So, what can you take away from my story? Firstly, remember that procrastination is a universal problem that requires a universal solution. Secondly, understand that overcoming procrastination takes time, patience, and practice. And finally, don't be afraid to seek help and support from others, because you're not alone in this struggle. If you're struggling with procrastination, I want you to know that there's hope. You can overcome it, just like I did. It won't be easy, but it'll be worth it. So, what's your experience with procrastination? Have you struggled with it in the past? Share your story in the comments below, I'd love to hear from you. And if you're looking for more tips and insights on how to overcome procrastination, be sure to check out my next video, where I'll be sharing even more strategies and techniques to help you stay on track. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.